Hello, football fans. Welcome back to Goalside. Is there a way to describe the world of football with an analogy of some kind? It is best to say that it's similar to a long road that stretches infinitely from one side of the universe to another, with players continuously running on it towards a distant and unknown destination. Players run on this road for all of their careers, many of them making excellent progress, while others are too slow and cumbersome to advance at all. Older players eventually get exhausted of running on the road and decide to stop, leaving more space for youngsters to run. These young players, on the other hand, sometimes find glory early, while others don't get very far at all and are quickly left behind by the rest. When a player fails to live up to their potential, it is sad to see how they are left behind on the massive road that is football, especially when the player was clearly always running as fast as they could, looking to reach the glorious heights of their club legends. There is a player in the English Premier League who has always had an immense potential to accomplish great things on both the club and international levels. A Manchester boy through and through. This player has lately seemed to have been falling to exhaustion on this great road of football after having run so fast previously. Many believe that his best times are in the past. We are talking in this video of Marcus Rashford, Manchester United's young star who, despite an impressive start to his professional career, has now dropped off and seems to be heading on a path he won't be able to return from, the path to failure. Rashford's story is a curious one. He was never supposed to get into Manchester United's first team as soon as he was, and was basically a last-minute emergency inclusion to the lineup made by Louis van Gaal in the 2015-16 UEFA Europa League season, in which the Dutchman looked to the academy striker on his bench to replace Anthony Martial, who had been injured in the warm-up before their second-leg round of 32 matches against Danish club Midtjylland. It is a curious memory to look back on, considering that fans and pundits alike had low hopes for United with Martial's injury. In fact, he had been the club's highest goal scorer all season, and without him, United looked toothless. There was a widespread belief that the English team would not manage to progress against the Danish side, who had eliminated Southampton in the knockout rounds leading up to the actual competition and had beaten United in the away first leg of the round. But any and all doubters were probably unfamiliar with Marcus Rashford and were unaware of how good the youngster really was. This teenager of only 17 years old knew that this was his big chance, and that there was no other choice but to take it if he wanted to become a first-team player for good. So he did. And at Old Trafford, no less. After the match was at 1-1 with only an own goal from the away team keeping United in the tie, Marcus stepped up. Showing excellent movement from the kickoff, Marcus caught an incisive pass from Mata inside the box at the 64th minute and fired it past Anderson, the Danish keeper. The crowd erupted in joyous celebration as the youngster ran to one of the corners and jumped in amongst the fans, who were amazed at how this young boy had scored the important 2-1 goal with such confidence and lethality. But he wasn't done yet. Rashford needed to make sure his team would progress. Stepping up only 11 minutes later, the Englishman followed right back Guillermo Varela's movement into the box and lifted his head up as the Uruguayan sent a cross straight at him. Allowing it to land on the pitch instead of heading it, Rashford kicked it past the helpless keeper, and the match was practically over as he ran once more to his friends in the crowd. 2 more goals would come as they progressed to the next round. It goes without saying that Marcus was on all the headlines and in all the football analyses which took place that week around the world. A 17-year-old reserve striker coming on like that and scoring 2 in the Europa League with his side on the brink of being knocked out. He had also broken a record set by George Best himself, the youngest United player to ever score in a European competition. It was unprecedented, but it led many rivals to wonder if maybe it was all just a case of him being slightly overhyped thanks to one good performance. However, if there's one thing Marcus Rashford knows how to do, it's silencing his rivals in the most spectacular way possible. Louis van Gaal started making good use of the boy for his every match, simultaneously showing confidence and asking the most he could from Rashford in this role as Manchester United's goal scorer. In only his next match as the top striker for the club, he was to play up front against Arsenal FC, one of the Premier League giants. This fixture didn't unfaze the young lad from Manchester at all, who performed magnificently against the North Londoners, scoring twice and assisting a third goal in a 3-2 victory that would also be remembered for Van Gaal's comical dive in front of the referee as he imitated Alexis Sanchez's simulation. These goals turned Rashford into the third youngest scorer for United in the Premier League after Federico Macheda and Danny Welbeck, a player who also scored in the 3-2 match, but unfortunately it was against the Red Devils, a real shame. Just a few weeks later, an even bigger game arrived for United. After all, it was a massive period for the club's season, and they were going through a series of tough matches that would decide their finishing position in the league, as well as their hopes of winning any silverware. The Manchester Derby, famous for recently becoming a blockbuster fixture due to City's growth as a Premier League giant, it was a match which most United fans didn't expect to win, especially with such a young, inexperienced striker up front. Yet Rashford was the man of the match, as his tricky movement and incredible pace past center-back Demichelis and crafty shot past Joe Hart brought United their first victory at the Etihad Stadium since 2012, as well as a wonderful moment for fans of the red side of Manchester. Rashford also became the youngest ever scorer in a Manchester derby since the Premier League began in 1992. To complete his round of amazing performances in all competitions, Rashford then impressed in a tough match in the FA Cup away to West Ham United, who were having an epic and very emotional season before they finally left Upton Park, their club's ground since 1904. And although Anthony Martial was back from injury by this point, the Dutch manager decided that United could do much more damage by playing them together with Martial on the left. It worked wonders in the end. Marcus Rashford scored a wonderful curling goal into the top corner, which goalkeeper Darren Randolph was powerless to save. The match ended 2-1, and Manchester United went on to the semi-finals thanks to the result. They would go on to win the FA Cup with an incredible Lingard volley, with Rashford starting the match as the team's striker. He was only 18 years old and had already been instrumental in his club's earning a long-awaited FA Cup. Not many players can say that in the competition's 148-year history. The following season saw even more success for Marcus, and certainly a whole lot of silverware for a lad who had already lifted his first trophy. With the arrival of Mourinho and Zlatan Ibrahimovic, Rashford began to learn a lot about scoring goals and pitching in with other efforts, such as playmaking and even tracking back. He was placed on the left wing position to accommodate the Swede, but it didn't affect him very much. Important goals, starting from his last-minute winner against Hull City in the league, and followed by others against Northampton Town and Leicester City, showed England and the rest of the world that the young man wasn't just a player in form, but actually a growing star. After winning the Community Shield at the beginning of the season, Rashford lifted his third piece of silverware in February of 2017 with the EFL Cup after a stunning Zlatan-inspired victory over Southampton. An unforgettable goal against Anderlecht in the Europa League helped him send United to the semis of the competition, and he was present in the final when the club won their first UEFA Europa League trophy, the only attainable trophy Manchester United hadn't yet won as a football club. Rashford would represent the player with the most appearances in all of the squad, more than David de Gea, and had also recently been called up for the England side, becoming the youngest English player to score on an international debut since 1938. But where are we going with all of this? Well, it's nice to know how good he's been in the previous seasons, but what about now? It's an interesting question, and we understand you may have doubts. All of this, which you have just heard and seen, is for you to comprehend one very important thing. Rashford hasn't lost his talent overnight. It hasn't been 5 years or 10 years since we saw him play like a world beater in the league, Cups and Europa League. Heck, he was even world-class in the UEFA Champions League against Paris Saint-Germain in early 2019, when United did the impossible by reverting a 2-0 defeat at home. Marcus Rashford has been praised by stars all across this beautiful game, starting with Arsene Wenger after his two famous goals against the Gunners. While many English pundits have been quick to crucify him for an overall bad 2019-20 season, other analysts across the world are actually actively looking for a reason behind his drop in form and wish for him to find his confidence once more. A player who is a Manchester boy, born and bred, having joined at the club's academy at 7 and having supported United since he could walk and talk, Marcus deserves time to develop. People often forget that, despite 4 years in the Premier League and 119 appearances for his club, as well as 35 for his country at the senior level, he is still only 21 years old and has already done more than plenty other stars have accomplished by his age. In fact, believe it or not, Rashford has scored more goals in both the Premier League and Champions League than Cristiano Ronaldo, Harry Kane, or Thierry Henry had by this point of their career. Scored only 4 less for his national team than Cristiano and 5 more than Kane, who at this point still had 0, and won more trophies than all of them combined. He's also just a few assists behind Cristiano at this point of the Portuguese superstar's career and possesses better offensive stats than the 21-year-old Ronaldo had under Sir Alex Ferguson during better times at the club. It could even be argued that under the Scotsman, Rashford would be doing much better than he is now, and nobody would be questioning his ability. For now, it may just be a case of everybody wanting to kick Manchester United and their players, even the young ones that deserve time, while they're down. Hopefully, United will be back soon to shut all the haters up. This has been all of our analysis on Marcus Rashford and his dip in form. We hope you've loved it. Don't forget to subscribe to Goalside. We'll see you on the next video.